We're not looking for a change of land use. The land use has been changed because we're going in a development plan in existence. So we're not really looking for a change. But because you don't have in your operations or instruments at home, you don't have actual compliance applications. In a important change of land use, we are looking for a change of land use. But really, we want to comply with the development plan. So then they said no, then they reject no, because equitable distribution, this, that, and the other, and rejected him. So we just said okay. So we had an option to either go to the land tribunal or use another option that is provided for in legislation. So I said to him, Ghana Land Tribunal is such a long homo, so sometimes we're going to have to wait next year. So I said to him, listen, let's stay the land tribunal. Harnal control, ownership. The real ownership is title. This is in the white man's world. I'm trying to bring you into the specific rules of the game. So when you say you own something, you mean you've got title to it. Because when you own it in title, then you can convert the title. You can leverage the value. Because you cannot use the intermittent payments. For example, the rates of sorts, the licenses, those cannot be used for any consequential maintenance or whatever that may need to be done in that area, and including the parking bays, by the way. Parking here, there are different types of developments. Now let's look at developments here in general that we may be a part of, or other people that we know could be a part of. We've got developments that are multi-residential. Those are quite common. People kind of like, they are multi-residential properties, right? Now, when you have a multi-residential property, let's just think about it. You've got a multi-residential property in a little apartment, or maybe D5, right? Just low end, D5. Valuation is on X amount. You meet Gilbert. Gilbert tells you, you've bonded these under one title. Now, may I please help you release more equity on top of the very same scheme? How do I do that? We do what we call sectional titles.
7th September is finally here. I would like to thank all of you for coming here. The person standing in front of you is Tepo Ndlovu Kitlo. Big animal. So I hope the information that we'll share will be as big as the elephant that my surname represents. Take notes. Open up your minds. Some of the things might be new. Some of the things might be old. Some might sound controversial, but they are all true. We are not, like I said in the previous masterclass, these things that we'll be learning here are not cunningly devised fables. These are things that exist in our laws. These are things that are provided for in all the statutes that this country has pertaining land and property. Okay, so let me see by the show of hands with the people here present. How many of us here have farms? Let's start there. Farms. Okay, yes, farms. Okay, most of the people here. How many of us here have property in any form? All right. How many of us here have mortgages? All right. How many of us here have multi-residential properties? All right. There's a lot that you're going to learn. How many of us here want to know how money is made? Ah, lovely, lovely. Then you're at the right place. You're at the right place. If your mission is to know how money is made, if your mission is knowing how best you can extract the value of your property, if your mission is to know how to best manage your property, then you're at the right place. You do not waste your Saturday. It is going to be life-changing, I assure you that. All right, so just to kick things off, the most important thing, what's in it for you? What is in it for you? Why should you be here? All right, so these things up there are what's in it for you. Thing number one, an understanding of how money is made. That's the first thing that you're going to learn, an understanding of how money is made. Not made in the sense of printing, not made in the sense of going to some place and getting it, but made as in the concept of what really money is. Because really, in essence, money is a shadow of something. Money is it's a mirror of something. It's a representation of something. So you're going to understand that concept of really what is money mirroring. How do you walk into your bank and walk out with their money? Because they want you to give them something for them to give you those zeros and hundreds. I get it. So you're going to understand how money is made. Secondly, you will learn you'll learn about managing your property portfolio. If you've got a farm, if you've got a house, if you've got multi-residential property, if you've got a block of shops, if you've got an estate, whatever you have, as long as it is property, you're going to learn how to manage it. There is the right way of managing it and the wrong way of managing it. There is a sensible way of managing it. Then there is the not so sensible way of managing it. There is let me not use that example that I wanted to use. It's a bit old school. Let me just drop it. There is a profitable way of doing it, and there's a not so profitable way of doing it. So today we're going to be learning about the most profitable way of doing it. And then you're going to learn about maximizing the value of your property. If your property is valued at 1 million pula, you might walk out of this door with a property valuation of 10 million pula, just with the things that you'll be learning today. So it's going to be teaching you how to maximize the value of your property. Not maximizing it, no. Not maximizing it, no. There's ways and means in which that can be done without oketsaring its breadth, its length, its height, but by just using the principles that you'll be learning here today. Thirdly, you'll be learning about actualizing the value of your property. That's what's in it for you. How to actualize the value, because there's value which lays dormant in a property. Equity just collects and it looks good on paper, but it's not actualized value. So you're also going to be learning how to actualize the value of your property. Then, there's thirdly, and I almost say it fifthly, equity creation and refinancing. You'll be learning how to create equity out of your property. Your property has been sitting with that mortgage. You've been paying it for a couple of years or months or whatever. You'll be learning how to unlock the equity that is collected within that property. Because after some time, and you'll be learning how to create equity in your property. You probably have a property and you're like, oh, well, there's no more way to squeeze equity out of this hard rock called my property. Well, there are means and ways in which equity, welcome ma'am. There are ways and means in which you can squeeze some juice called equity out of that same property. So you'll be learning to do that. Then finally, I think this one is the most important. Keeping your money in your pocket. Not spending your own money to maintain, to run, to keep your property going, and to reinvest. You will learn how to keep your money in your pocket and use someone else's money to improve your property, to maintain it, and to increase its equity. I know we like keeping money in our pockets. We don't like, we've been taking it out too much. So today you'll be learning about this the information here is a compendium of years of research, years of learning, years of practical experience. And I want to assure you that the gentleman who will be teaching us these things is a seasoned man. He's a man who's done this for many other people whose valuations were 20 million and they popped up to 200 million. People whose valuations were 1 million, they popped up to 11 million. These are not stories. They are real things. So you're in the presence of the gentleman who has practically done that, who has had that experience, who has all the know-how on how that should be done. So without wasting any much of your time, then Ndlovu is going to step out and make way for a gentleman who has taken this mission on his back, He has answered the clarion call to liberate our people mentally from a lack of understanding. So with that said, a round of applause for Re Gilbert Sisinyi.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, and thank you for coming. It's always great to be amongst your own on a journey that is much bigger than yourself or ourselves. It was something that he said, that triggered emotions. I think it was this past week when I met a gentleman, and he had a field to go to Queen. And the field was, 5 hectares, 6 hectares? It was just, and, I went through statutes and showed him the use of land when it is rezoned. By a stroke of a pen, the value can just explode. Just by changing the use, go from a field to commercial. 6 hectares alongside a road. So we went to the council to request that change because a development plan, those who were with us the last Masterclass, we spoke of development plans, which was the inlet into this body of knowledge that we are about to roll into and encourage the rest of the country. Don't worry about our numbers. It always starts like that. We always start very small. Even us, when we came into existence, we were nothing to speak of. We were but if you see us today, so we always come from humble beginnings. So just to digress in saying that, this gentleman then says to me, brother, can you help me? Because there is a development plan and I have this field. I met this brother, I think it was about last year. And we went to council. We tried to engage council with that process of change of land use. They tossed and turned and bahana, basically. You know how they get, our authorities, making it so difficult. And then as I studied more and more, with the help of brothers like Botswana, Sepo's like 20 years my junior, but we click. It's like a match made in other places, He hears me very well. It's like, so 1, 2, say, because then I'm able to not lose the focus to study, to keep searching, to look for processes and understand. And then I went and found, no, can't this thing, land use, it is not only at the behest of land board or council, or it is actually in many statutes. That's when I started saying to him, look at this. When you believe in something, sometimes when you dig deeper, your belief will be verified. It will be confirmed. So then I landed into a section, I think it was section 5W of the Deeds Registry Act. For the Deeds Registrar, anything that he registers or she registers at the Deeds Registry, it cannot contradict any other law that is out there. The Deeds Registrar has a special responsibility to make sure all property that is registered in the Deeds Registry must be in sync, in harmony with other acts that exist elsewhere. And one of the duties of the registrar is to examine any transaction that is lodged with their office to confirm that that is in place. So whilst Land Board can issue you a lease, the plowing field, whereas the area is rezoned and it is something else, they break that law, but the Deeds Registrar has got another responsibility not to break that law. So when you approach the Deeds Registrar is now compelled to act within the confines of the act. So we went, then I said to him, okay, council rejected actually the application for change of land use. And we kept explaining to them, we're not looking for a change of land use. The land use has been changed because we're going in a development plan in existence. So we're not really looking for a change. But because you don't have in your operations or instruments, you don't have actual compliance applications. Change of land use. We are looking for a change of land use. but really we want to comply with the development plan. So then they said no, but then they reject no, because equitable distribution, this, that, and the other, and rejected him. So we just said okay. So we had an option to either go to the land tribunal or use another option that is provided for in legislation. So I said to him, Ghana Land Tribunal is such a long homo, so sometimes we're going to have to wait next year. So I said to him, listen, let's stay the Land Tribunal. Let's stay even court. Let's go straight to the deeds registrar and engage the deeds registrar with the application here, Section 5W of the Deeds Registry Act. And we did that. And then at the stroke of a pen, as I say, these things are just a stroke of a pen. The difference between our glorious destiny and where we are is just held by men and their issues. It's not held by any divine power anyway. It's just people sitting there who just have a certain dispensation that needs to be challenged, informed, talked to, maybe even cultivated for be educated. Especially when we come into a certain level of understanding. We should even feel sorry for those who don't share the same feeling. And by just on that day, the deeds registrar decided to do her job. And by the stroke of a pen, changed the field into commercial and endorsed it. And we didn't have to go to court. And we didn't have to go to the tribunal. We didn't have to appeal anything. And he walked out and he gets a valuation. And the valuation goes to 18 million. Brothers and sisters, I've seen this repeatedly. And it's gotten to the point where it really infuriates me because this poor chap, and now he's open for business, he's got his title, he's working his, that just gives me so much satisfaction. Don't mind my tears. They are just an expression of joy, by the way. There is a lot in life for us, for our children, for the future, if we could just align with truth. The whole universe is created on truth. This room that we are in is functionally constructed on truth. Otherwise it will fall on us and kill us. Falsehood created nothing. The universe is standing on the basis of truth. They say the planet Earth, which has a certain area, and that area is actually a combination of land and water. The water occupies 2/3 and the land occupies 1/3. And this planet spins on its axis every 23 hours, 56 minutes and 46 seconds, making a complete day as it rotates around the sun. We are on it, by the way, remember, making its way around the sun every 365 and a quarter days at a speed of around 137 and a third mile per hour at an incline to the axis of its orbit of 23.5 degrees. Because of that, there are 4 dips in a year, which creates what we call seasons. Now, this earth has 2/3 water and 1/3 land. Why isn't the water drowning out civilization? They say it is because of the presence of the moon. The moon apparently balances the waters of the earth. That's why the wave and the tides depend on the proximity of the moon from the earth to keep us balanced. The balance of nature and the balance of universe is mathematically precise. It's no accident that we breathe oxygen and not carbon dioxide because it will kill us. It's no accident that we are able to manage gravity. It's no accident that, so truth is the fundamental principle of existence itself. Everything else is subservient to truth. And a falsehood has got a limited time span. Falsehood is what is perpetrated by those who don't want to exceed to the elements of truth. Now, this thing called money is very elusive to the mind. And we have never really taken time. I know it has such a bearing in our lives. It has such an impact in terms of how we do what we do. But it's a piece of paper. We can see it's a piece of paper. And we can tell that this piece of paper is actually got little drawings of people that sometimes we've never known, or people that, we see that. But it represents value. And that representation is what is key. The representation of money in terms of its relationship to the value of the land that we occupy. So up until a semblance of understanding how the money world works with respect to the land or the lands that we own. And that relationship, where I looked at, there are certain examples around us that will interest you. For example, how's our Chopisi? Chopisi has got a very interesting principle. See, we got to always be studying. We study even those we don't like. We study all the time, even into old age. You keep wondering, keep asking questions, and encourage the children to do the same, because Banai Bilebona, they are very interesting, because some of them come with answers. So outside Chopisi, the way it operates, in a credit system, they create a niche in the marketplace where they've got a share of the market, where people will go to Chopis to go and buy. That in itself is just the market share. Or in the marketplace, Chopisi are easy. So, when you bring your merchandise, they've got a system where credit. Say, for example, 90 days, for argument's sake. I'll pay you in 90 days. So, you give me your goods, I'll pay you in 90 days. But before I pay you, in those 90 days, I would have sold what you supplied me with. Had they sell it almost 3, 4, 5 times over before they pay you? How about do like a profit? If it isn't profit, one sale. Profit sale. Go within that 3 months. By the time they pay you, they have made so much profit from the loan you gave them. So credit is a loan, in a manner of speaking. It is, if you think of it as a loan, not necessarily of money per se, but you can loan me your goods, and I spin those goods and create a profit and pay you back with the profit, and remain with more, because actually what you gave me is less than what I eventually made. So that principle, holona. If you internalize it, from the point of view of goods as opposed to being loaned money, then you come to realize, as there are those who say, we don't want to take loans, Gilbert. I mean, you are sending the world in the wrong way with your teachings. You're almost as though suggesting we should take loans. You're making it so easy for people to take loans. But it is because it is inside loans. Therein lies the secrets, or the secret of the power of equity of an asset. So if you've got an asset, and a non-performing asset, meaning it is bringing nothing back home. It is an asset it's a baby that you have to keep feeding. It does nothing. It doesn't grow this baby. And you're not getting anything out of it. Homo then leads to, that non-performing asset is what leads to poverty. But if you make the asset be able to release its potential, and as we were studying with my brother, we went on down the road, which I have always known that in fact to manage if to manage my home, I need to get a loan against what I earn, and I'm able to do great developments and be able to effect change in my life. What more of a country, what more of a community, what more of a nation, what more of a group of people? Clearly, certainly, that same principle must be also required to take place. So when we started going into in-depth studying, the land management, we then found municipalities, Local Government Act, the Township Act. We were shocked. Actually, it was only the other day that we found right there in the Act, Local Government Act, the council the mandate to borrow money from financial institutions and against their revenue streams and assets. Who would have thought? I mean, I always knew by looking at the models that are used in other countries, like where I studied in Toronto and Canada, when you get to these countries that are so efficient, the streetcars, subways, and everything on time, functional, no potholes, very admirable societies where you see what these people, something they're doing right. But then when I came back home and looked at some of the experiences we've had back home, some of you have been in towns like Bo Rapa, Bo Joining, Bo Silbe Pikwe. And my friend was saying to me, where when white people leave the town or the home, it just deteriorates. When we take over, something happens. When we take over, it's us who have taken over. Why is it that when the white man is running, and when we use the words, stop right there. We want to know what is that that you're talking about that makes them be able to operate so proficiently, so admirably, so much so that we want to be like them. Of course, I don't blame us for wanting to be like white people. They do their things so well. I mean, to the point. Certain things I won't mention because, it's not about, creating a funny feeling. But it is about to say the world of the white man, it is organized. And the laws that we have, the parliament, and the acts of parliament that we borrowed from them. We didn't write anything. None of these that we have as laws come from us. Because our parents didn't know these things. Like we were under them. So when we did, we took exactly their acts. But we just changed words or district council from your precincts, they've got different terminologies and whatnot. Change a wording here. But in terms of the fundamentals of how these things are run, that was the same. So these people, when you come to imagine places like Korenkiem, for example, the bus stoppers are on, people don't understand these are high income generating facilities. The foot count, daily foot count, and the type of money, everybody that's there, even if they pay 50, whatever, these are avenue streams that must be amortized against facilities, some financial institutions. Somebody said, no, but these foreign banks touch a property. No, you don't get it. We can actually use our own national banks, both CEDA, pension funds, to be the ones financing. We don't have to there's also I'm just doing an overview very quickly because I need to bring you up to speed. There's also different types of property and title that you hold as an entity. Honalidi titles that we do and servitudes titles. Okay? Now a servitude title, and it just occurred to me a few words that brother knows I have to pay attention to in my delivery. As the word servitude is a very interesting word. The word, it has the root serve, to serve. So if it's a servitude, it is serving something. Who is it serving? The one that it is serving is the one who's going to pay for it. If I take a loan, a servitude title, then the beneficiary is the one who's being served by that servitude. Now, there are many servitude titles. If you've got a space or an area or a development, such as, say, maybe, I'm just going to do this hopping around first, so then I'll align you. Don't worry, you're in good hands. If you've got like Main Mall, for example. Main Mall. Who owns the area? And whatnot. And sorry? Yes, one would think it's the council. But you see, the assumption is that if council owns it, council has got title for it. But you'd be surprised that they don't. Our way of saying we own things, we just mean that we have a right to own it. Not that we substantively own it. Yeah. Control, ownership. The real ownership is title. This is in the white man's world. I'm trying to bring you into the specific rules of the game. So when you say you own something, you mean you've got title to it. Because when you own it in title, then you can convert the title. You can leverage the value. Because you cannot use the intermittent payments. For example, the rates of sorts, the licenses, those cannot be used for any consequential maintenance or whatever that may need to be done in that area. And including the parking bays, by the way. Parking, only your parking. And when you are able to now convert that into a right, a servitude title, you can now go to the bank and say that I've got an asset. And the servitude goes for not only parking, common spaces or common property, as we sometimes call it, common areas. It also goes for roads. It goes for water lines. It goes for BPC lines. It goes for fiber optics. Anything that serves can get title, servitude title. It's called a notarial deed of servitude. Did they? With this registry, we see them, but we don't really know their consequence and what they are intended to do. Now, there is an obligation on the part of the authorities that they have a responsibility to perform a mandate. When they collect rates or service levies from people, from the public, they are supposed to provide a service. You cannot, as they do Go Gaborone North, collect rates from people and not provide them services. That's fraudulent. Now, the reason why they are not able to provide those services is because they don't know how. They are stuck. They don't understand the white man's system thoroughly enough. They haven't interrogated it. And I call it the white man's system boldly because that's what it is. For what it is. We have borrowed it, but now we must be authorities in understanding it fully so that we can apply it. Now, when you've got a multi-residential property, for example. I'll give an example of a multi-residential property, but anyway, let me now try and regularize the lecture so that now it's more systematic. But the overview that I was trying to give, there are so many things, so many assets that are non-performing. And as a consequence, we appear like we're a poor country. But yet we pay daily for things. Daily. Every time we do a petrol, you are paying towards the road. Every time we do a rate, you do a cancelling for your property, you are paying towards services that could be much better than what you are getting if that asset was recognized as an asset and was not just looked at as a non-performing asset. If you've got a commercial property, I wanted to make distinctions between Gaborone Mall, BBS Mall, Airport Junction, the difference. You already start seeing a difference. When now, what ranking? If we were to do these things right, we could have top-notch bus rank with underground parking and you name it. We could have the foot count, bus ranking, Game City, combined. Just the foot count of what happens in that area on a daily basis. The little bits, tidbits that fall into the kitty as a result of just the participation of the public in that space can result in magnificent developments. If we could just calm down and be, or at least as we are speaking this, we are speaking it but going towards our authorities, of course, because we say this will never really be what it should be, except if when the time our authorities are able to come and be part of lectures like these, and then they are not intimidated, and they shouldn't even feel they're being attacked, because there's nothing wrong with not knowing. The only thing that is wrong is when knowledge is present and you act like it is not. You want to put the genie back in the box and act like you can't undo this process that we are in. It is actually already happened. The knowing of how we should manage land has already happened. I wanted to go further a little bit before I go into the structure of the lesson and tell you about you would have your fields. And when you have fields, you must know where you have your farm. How on a farm, you must understand you cannot own land in bulk. You have to declutter land and let it specialize in the various activities that are part of that estate that you have. If it is an agricultural estate, manoko, title deed, spinach, title deed, butternut, title deed, dipudi, title deed, konanten, title deed, everything title. Every activity must be housed in a title distinct is part of, because if you don't declutter, then the weakness of one can bring down everything. If one falls into trouble, then it can bring down everything. But if they're decluttered and financed separately, don't finance everything as a group. We finance things separately, and we have to understand you can't be a jack of all trades. You have to separate so that we title deed, and or wherever. And their own life cycle, their own performance out in the marketplace. The tamati are distinct. They are not the same as the cabbage. The cabbage is their own lifespan, their own market, their own. How did I do same? How did I do same? Limodi komunto. Hona leza mash. Hona leza nama. Hona leza ilongori kita. What not? You separate these things. There are breeds. Breeds must be separated. Then all this, when it is done on titles. And then there are servitudes now that service these various activities that take place. Now you are organizing an estate and making it, and by so doing, the minute you declutter, the value goes up. And that value, once it goes up, as I say, when you look at Homo, you rationalize an area in that way. For example, let me go back quickly. Stationing, or it keeps coming back. We would then be able to create high value stationing, high value area, because we've done things right. Then you have like a higher value area. Then the rentals go up. Then the minute you start changing the complexion of your property, the complexion of that complex, that business, that then you are also elevating the value of that property, and by so doing, then your returns go up. You can't lose just by unlocking that which is equity, or what we call dead capital, that which laid dormant. And the only way you do it is by making sure you structure whatever operation you have. And are you okay? All right. So let's now get into a more structured approach to the. Are you okay? A more structured approach to the lecture. One of the things my brother doesn't understand is that I was never really a student. You see, in a scholastic way, I shoot from from passion. So I need to. Okay, is this where we are? All right. Now, there are different types of developments. Now let's look at developments in general that we may be a part of, or other people that we know could be a part of. We've got developments that are multi-residential. Those are quite common. People kind of like, they are multi-residential properties, right? Now, when you have a multi-residential property, let's just think about it. You've got a multi-residential property in a little apartment, maybe D5, right? Just low end, D5. Valuation is on X amount. You meet Gilbert. Gilbert tells you, you've bonded these under one title. Now, may I please help you release more equity on top of the very same scheme? How do I do that? We do what we call sectional titles. Sectional titles are titles that are taken on units of a building. For example, as I said the other day, complex in a block 247. It's a beautiful sectional title scheme. But I'm sure, even in this very university, they've not sectionalized it. But they would make so much money if they were to sectionalize it. Yeah, this would be a section, and it will have a title deed. It would be your room 35 title deed. And then the next one, and then when you passage in it's common property. It's what we call common property. Baba own these various units, ba interactor or ba dirisa that space to access or to whatever. Then outside also, parking known as common. So there could be title for the various units, and also title to the common property, including the parking. Now, when you have that, you then revalue. You call a valuer. We're still trying to train our valuers, by the way, because the process of growing is far from over, obviously. So our valuers have been accustomed to doing the valuations the old way. People normally, when they get into a space, they don't want to do new groundbreaking things and challenge themselves. No. People normally, when they get into a space, and it's monotonous. And I don't like that about our professionals, because they settle into the comfort zone of repeat. Instead of searching, because we are a growing nation, there's a lot that we need to find out and do properly. So our valuers are not skilled enough when it comes to valuing certain things like the parking lot. Things like, but they know how to value a development. How much value at sale? Value a staircase. Because we haven't been using these for title purposes. But we are importing this expertise now and making sure that our valuers get to speed and know how to value properly. So now, when you have broken this multi-res development into those units and you revalue it, your net units of 5, it's once you do a mortgage, what X amount, then you find what is 10X amount is multiplied by 10 because of the valuation of these units that you have decluttered. Then you can go back to the bank and say, how much is your exposure? Or what's a bank? And then you engage to try and see if they can release the 3 and remain with the 2. Or possibly maybe because you've been paying, maybe they can remain with 1. Instead of you being oversubscribed in your loans, being your loan is covering a lot more than what the exposure of the bank is. You can now start negotiating and taking a second mortgage or third mortgage to be able to access more funds to do other things. Now, this is a multi-residential property. So it means, how do I multi-residential property? Today it should be compulsory to do sectional titles. It shouldn't be even a question of how bad. It's also compulsory, not in by you being forced, but in the future, I believe it will be a standard. Why would you want to hold property under one title? For what purpose? But the banker, because they know we don't know this, nobody is encouraging us to do this. And I also found the Sectional Title Act, since it passed the Parliament thing, the assumption is that people know about it. And I realized, no, people don't know about sectional titles. So we need to be deliberate and come out there. We need to have teachers. People like myself and others must come out and share with you the knowledge of what these things are and what they are all about and how they work and what they mean, and give you the opportunity to interrogate a professional mind and ask all the questions until you are comfortable and you think you know exactly what needs to be known. So the sectional title, I don't think it is being taught enough. It is being spread. There was a point in Khutumela where you can't do sectional titles on tribal land. It is just, little myths, and then, so people just generally know. Do you know what a sectional title is? Anyone? I find very few actually even know how to do them. Very few actually even know how to lead the lawyer. They're coming into the space of understanding how sectional titles work, and so there's that general in that space. But sectional title is the way to go. Whether how simulula, you must always think, if you're going to do any multi-residential property, sectional title. I don't want to go and talk about sectional title on single family residentials because that will confuse you, but I will try and sort of just keep it to multi-residentials, because but the other day I lodged one, a single family, and we broke it into bedrooms, and the deeds registrar was like, why are you doing, is it multi? Because no, it's not. And then the wonder was, what does the Act say? The Act is very clear. The other sectional title is actually a title for a section. It never said it should be multi-family or whatnot. So because of the assumption that she made, she assumes we can make sectional titles as our single-family residentials. But we can. Another title from the main house. Separate, and you will access more equity that way. Little bedroom, this can be done, but I don't want to jump the gun. I don't want to talk about that more emphatically without first making sure that you are very comfortable and very happy with the language as sectional title on multi-residential property. So I want the other slide. I haven't finished, sorry. I'm too slow for you, I know. Don't worry, I'll catch up. So we have, okay, this is a typical sectional title scheme ko Phakalane, one that I just did. You can see it's the green there represents the actual apartments, the townhouses. Okay, that's the green there, and then of course the orange common area. This is where the parking dealing thing, swimming pool, and where the kids play and whatnot, and the appreciation of value will blow your mind away. And this is a guy who just comes from India and whatnot, because they know these things. He doesn't even know from the one satellite designer contacts me, tells me I want to do a sectional title scheme. By the time in fact, because to do a sectional title, you need a land surveyor to come in and do what you call sectional title diagrams. And then after you've got the diagrams, then you can now register deeds. But you don't have to register if you're not transferring rights. You just keep it and revalue it, because how the sectional title diagram, the value goes up. The idea is to appreciate higher value for your property. And I wanted that other slide in it. I think it's the where you were saying no. Keep going back. No, this one. Yeah. Then we'll get to the home. And then, of course, finally, commercial developments. And the commercial developments, they lend themselves to the whole principle as sectional title. However, commercial developments, you're talking about areas on a level, for argument's sake, it could be a mall. It's a commercial development, but normally that way mall or filling station or it's a Moana Park, for example. Moana Park is a typical commercial property development in Phakalane there, because what you have is you've got various entities there. You've got like your KFC there, you've got your Rhapsody, you've got Times Homo, you've got where there used to be Rodizio, you've got all these are actually sectional titles. They share the common space you're parking. They share the driveways. Yes, they share those. Now, to look after them, you separate. Then you take title, the common areas. You bond it in the bank. Then you pay the bank through the levies that are being charged these individual owners. Go to the sectional title model. Forms what you call a body corporate. Once you've got a sectional title, the owners or the members of these various units form what you call a body corporate. This body corporate, in a membership, body corporate represents the owner of the unit. And then you've got unit, the one who has the biggest unit pays the biggest contribution. The participation quota, contributor on a monthly or whatever period that is determined for the upkeep of that scheme. And then that upkeep, because levies as they come, you can't use Madiadi levy for developments because I'm a me a gona go accessa madi a mantsi ko di bankeng a ka go letang gore o nne le parking e leng gore it's highly maintained, so that the problem of maintenance is immediately taken care of by making sure that you've got title that you can take to the bank to get a loan to deal with this. Now, the reason why we have persistent maintenance problems in our utility companies, water utilities, why really the pothole? It's very simple to understand why we have potholes, and other countries or other advanced countries don't have these things. In fact, to see in a very to see this in a very practical way. The toll gates. It's like a toll gate. Expectation. Because how pothole that company you paid, you are paying for a service. You are going to drive on a road that is above board, that is well maintained. So or are dwelling in a day. High enough to do those developments. We see construction companies busy and whatnot because they've got facilities in the bank. They've got overdrafts in the bank that are servicing with the intermittent payments of the beneficiaries. The intermittent payments of the beneficiaries, which is equal to the intermittent payments of rates or levies or any intermittent payments, amortized, allow us to access the big chunk that we can use at a go to solve our maintenance problems. So we don't have a problem when we've got an asset and we've got a means through which that asset is able to generate income. We don't have a problem at all. We are sorted. It's not a question of having the money right there. No. Just like you, when you get a loan from the bank, you don't have to have the money, but you do have a means. You're employed. You're getting a salary every month. So that qualifies you to get the big chunk that can allow you to do the developments that are necessary. So commercial developments, they lend themselves to a similar type arrangement, whether it is in an estate, which a body corporate in an estate will be like a homeowners association. So commercial developments, they come in those various in those various forms. And of course, the town, city, and country development. And the town, city, and country development, our amenities as a society, as a community. Who looks after our drainage? Who looks after our roads? Who looks after our sewerage? Who looks after, and how do they look after our sewerage? How? What methods is Bo Council using to give us better environments for us and our children to live in? Are they using the real refined methods, or what they are using is an archaic system? Some subversion and some words like that to get money that you don't really deserve because you haven't earned it through a rationalization of an asset to make it perform. So what we're doing is we're clogging down the system. We're getting money from the central government or whatever it is, and we don't have to account to against which asset and going forward. So we don't have a maintenance plan. So if you build a building like this one, this building, very nice, but it's a liability because a building has to be renovated every periodically in a lifespan. You can't, even your own house that you live in, there's an expectation, a renovation that should take place. So where is that money going to come from? So if you have a facility like this, here we are. We had to book this facility, they charged us, whatever they charged us. Now that is an income. If they've got any other way of raising income through the use of this very facility, it would make absolute sense for this to be collateralized for maintenance purposes, at the least, maintenance purposes. So yes, when it comes to town and country development, we find there's a lot of discussions that we need to carry out with our authorities. I'm sure in your neighborhoods, there are parks. Have you noticed what these parks, these open spaces, they are not being utilized? Have you gone from Hyundai Circle driving down in between Block 8 and Block 7? Do you know that bush that's been staying idle on the left? It stayed like that for ages. Nobody's using it. How it's in the maps or check out, it's an open space. There's supposed to be a park there. But the problem is, how do you make it a park? You get a title deed. You have to get a title deed because otherwise, where are you going to get the funds from? But for as long as the central government doesn't just say, here is so many million, go and do this, then it will stay like that and be a crime haven and be an undesirable and eyesore. It is a land that is developable. I mean, what is happening in Park 27? There's no excuse. And I can tell you what is happening in Park 27. They have unleashed and unlocked the value of that park. They can do it in any other park anywhere in the country. What stops them? I mean, it's there. And there are people around there who would utilize this facility in a viable and commercial way. But the only way it can be viable, it is that, first and foremost, it must get title so that it can unlock its own potential. And when it does that, then the income that the beneficiaries, which could be a zoo, it could be a park for whatever. On Sundays, we get bored, we come there with our children. It could be small fees that we pay to get in. You know, I always like these toilets. It's like this one. So, and it's a very smart approach towards utility maintenance and just providing a facility. It's little money that actually is big money. So anyway, we did. So in multi-residential developments, we start with title. Key. Title is key. Of course, then, the word title also is elusive because and some time in the past, people used to think, or title like the freehold land. There was all sorts of myths amongst our leaders even who didn't understand that our title thought to be in simple terms is a real right that is registered at the deeds registry office. See, the deeds registry is a very important office in that sense because it secures the financial world. It is a system. When they set it up, it's very elaborate. They knew in any country there must be a deeds registrar. Otherwise, we can't bring our banking system in there. So it is like a deeds registry office. I mean, that's just how organized the white man's world is in terms of just this money, wealth creation and sustenance of human beings. They made sure the deeds registry. So we start with title. In title key, registration at the deeds registry office of your asset. So that is key. And like he says, the title must be held in a format that is accepted by the financial market. It will be accepted by the financial market because if it is registered at deeds, it's got the seal of government to say we vouch that this is it, and you can borrow or lend somebody money against it. Then the next one, land use, which is what made me emotional at the beginning of the lecture, talking about my brother who at the stroke of a pen managed to get the proper land use for his land. And the land use alone changes the complexion. So it is also key that the land use be interrogated and be managed in a manner that it is not denied people without due course, without legal basis. Land use law is the second in line. After title, we need to get the land use right. And of course, the land use must be confirmed against the development plan and aligned with that which is stipulated on the development plan. Now, key. That land use, we must always make sure, like I had warned the participants the last month when we had our session, where never engage in any process with the authorities that is not regulated by law. Never. Even if they tell you, if you can check and find homo is not regulated by law, or no, I can't. I can't do this. And explain to them why. Because you assume that our authorities follow the law. And I'm here to tell you, after so many years of interacting with them, I don't know, most of the time, sometimes they don't follow the law because I have found so when I know, because now there's a new wave, there's an intervention in our affairs in terms of knowledge. When I know, always check and see, are you safe? Because if you follow and go through with a transaction that is not regulated, then you become culpable. It is like you are a party to the crime that was committed. So we want to exonerate the public so that authorities out in the open they have an obligation to provide us with the correct service, the proper service. So then, of course, there will be a site map. A clear and well-organized plan should be established. This plan should consider ease of access and the use of the property. So, of course, now, site plan is very important. Any piece of land, you must have a plan. You must have a plan about how you're going to use the land. They call it a master plan sometimes. Even if you have not done anything to the land, look at it, especially agricultural land. Look at it and wonder, where am I going to place what and why and how? And let the land even guide you sometimes, because we deal with data and data information, that we want an information system that will guide the management. That is very, because that's what you want. It's a desire. It should be that the soil says that it is suitable for that activity. Try and work around what the land dictates as opposed to your wishful thinking. It's more scientific to allow the land to guide you. So when we make these site plans to decide what will go where, whatever type of development that it is that you are putting up, it should be in consideration of where is the drop, where's the washout, am I losing, if it's agriculture, soil erosion, what particular quadrant is more affected. If it is a commercial development to frontage, where do I face? We've had some amazing success stories of using land that is positioned properly. I mean, I'll mention case studies as we go on to speak of case studies of how we managed to just turn things around for people. And you know, it is always emotional. Whether a simple person, I appreciate the immense value from that land. I've seen a destitute become a millionaire. The lotto type thing. Kuri million has a thing. Kuri motai takes a bra home. Ba oraga mogoduko koloba tsebe ba Brian ba gore soka di kuri le sport o go dira just life you know you hello man. Me ba sitting on monko apir. Atka motsola moses. But sitting on 8 hectares. If you go there today, and if you, you know, when that happened, actually, I remember, the banker asked me, did I get any financial counseling for the recipients of this great turnout of events? And I didn't. And it was because I wasn't, you know, wise enough to do that. But the thing that just caught me and really touched me was to see you become, you can never be normal again. You'll never because more has a lotto. Lotto at least is a chance. More is not chance. This is a well calculated plan. So we'll go into positioning. Side plan. You look at where you are. Its own DNA. Its own potential. There's nothing like useless land. Forget about that. All land has use. It's just that you may not have figured out what the use is. Right. Now, after the site map, now we go to sectional title. Sectional title, as I explained earlier, all the built-up units must be held under separate title. This maximizes the value of the entire property and allows for sectional sale or lease and mortgage of the individual units. Then we move to the magic word, servitude. You know, the servitude. That servitude is the common use area of the property. It must be held under a separate title called servitude title. It's a servitude title. We have very few of them in Botswana. It really worries me because the fact that we have very few of them, it means that there's a lot that we have not, a lot of equity just hidden, unutilized. We must have a change in our thinking, begin to see these things, begin to try out these things. Try and register a title for your parking lots. They are called exclusive use areas sometimes. For example, if I owned this section, this room 36, and I had the right, obviously, because parking konte, I can't come and use this and not have a parking. That parking konte, common, exclusive to this, or a parking bay 1 to 6 or 1 to whatever, exclusively room 36, title deed, you know, or title deed, or the parking bays are also. Now, when authorities struggle, and I remember even to as high as the director of former director of surveys and mapping, it's a lot title deed, and he didn't believe it until I had to go and get the example to show him title deed. And because it's not commonplace in our society to see title deed, we think kana parking lot. Many people, you know, the word title deed very recently in our lives. In the 80s, that's when the word title deed started hearing it. But then we got to think title deed more in terms of property, a plot. We didn't know that there were titles for other things. So we are here to tell you what there are title deeds for a hell lot more. And that we need to be about the business of finding out what those title deeds are, how we can do them for ourselves, and how those title deeds are going to be able to add value to what we are trying to do in a magnificent way. And then, of course, you have your service levies. And those service levies, by the way, are regulated di kwadilwe, the service levy ordinarily in a municipality the rates ha gongwe it becomes so cruel that the rate is in the rates upon the rates like go Golf Estate. Golf Estate, I don't know whether maybe but they pay rates almost twice. They pay the rates to the city council and then they pay the rates to the homeowners association. That shouldn't be the case. They should pay rates only once. How the plots number so you just pay one retail. The city council not understanding its obligation doesn't realize the rates is about Golf Estate. Right Hagiti. And leave the homeowners inside to manage those affairs because they don't manage the internal services at the Golf Estate. So the levy, the rates, the generally mandate, a legal obligation. When you collect rates as a municipality, what are you supposed to be providing? It is not just a donation. It is actually a well-regulated principle. It is I pay you this, you give me that. You can't just collect and not do anything. So to the extent that we are beginning to wake up to these things, to the extent that we are beginning to realize to that extent will we now begin to make the necessary demands to our authorities and at least get them to understand what now we know better and we expect them to do better by us. And then of course, I just wanted to do 2 case studies, then we can have a break. Can I do Meripul? So then I met a lady. This is, you know where Engine filling station is? On the A1. The Engine filling station on the A1. Come Mama Share. It's that plot there. Can you point? It's plot number 7. That's where the Engine filling station is. So I meet a lady some 10 years ago or so. She owned the whole plot. 4 hectares. Nearly same. So she comes to me, Meripule, humble lady. She used to do some construction work and she wanted to retire. And then she says to me, Senior, I've got this 4 hectare piece of land along the A1. What can I want a retirement plan. Okay, then I say to her, right on the A1, wow, we can change its use. And then after changing its use, we can now do multiple titles. And then you can bring in other interests. And you can lease to them. And they can pay you. And then you can have your retirement plan. And then you can pay me like 50,000 or whatever I charged her. Then you're sorted. Then we agreed. Then we did it. And it's done. It's life. It's not an imagination. She's there. Meripule is there. People have come in. They've taken over plot 7. There's another operation that took over plot 6. So Anna Gesso took over 9, 8, 11, and 10. Then he put every one of those is occupied. Then she had the road servitude. Then we took the road servitude. We made a title. And then the levies. Are we together? Just show the road servitude, brother. Why when I get it, so we take a title. So we take a title for it. And then she collects levies from these people who are provided a facility that is functional. They pay her the levies. She then does the road for them. It's a beautiful little operation right on the side of the road. I mean, and you know, there are a lot of people that have, because the minute I done that, just behind her was the late Chitono, Chris Chitono, right behind her. And then I did that for Chitono as well. But then he didn't develop it into too many people in there. This wasn't as well managed. You see, that's another thing. When the minute you finish the estate, then you need to manage it. Now, these people, 1, 2, 3, all these people, there's about 11 of them, must belong to a homeowners. They must look after that facility. And they must have meetings, annual meetings or what have you. And sit together and see to it or they are able to maintain that complexion. And it's only when we had done a few of these changes on Mamashia, change our use, that the council woke up and realized the potential of Mamashi and came after us to say, industrial commercial. We did about 1, 2, 3, about 4 along the road. Agri sales, and then once we done that, then they realized there's a potential. Why? Because of the A1 and the proximity of the A1 from your Pakalani, your Wabane. Like I say, every place is a DNA. So while opportunistically, what opportunities can we be able to derive from this landmass? And then I found last one. Then I will take a break. Then I meet another brother. He owns a farm. This one is currently in the market. You must understand that it's being marketed. It's the latest brainchild. So beautiful, It's a wagon wheel. The guy owns like 3,600 hectares of a farm. I guess we like to own big things, but big non-performing things. So I come to him, it's big. It's too big to be owning 3,600 hectares alone, brother. What are you going to do? And, a lot of people just own this land. It's too overwhelming. It's too heavy land when it's like that. You got to break it into manageable pieces and have other people come in. We call it farming with others, complementary farming, not competitive farming, not farming on your own, but farming with others, so that you supply me with, I have got an abattoir, you give me the beef. The other guy does the packaging. Trucks leave the farm. We are all a community here, and it's a wagon wheel. It's based on a principle. They all go radially to the center, and everybody, all of these are basically what you're looking at here is so it's like back to back. Back to back. So you can move from one paddock to the next. So it's been sold. It's the first of its kind in the country to say, we want to show them an example. And what it took to convince the authorities to actually get a big farm to look like this. They can allow you to subdivide a farm, but to make titles, because now what we are saying here is, we've got about 37 titles. So we've got 37 farmers, but they must come and all be harmonized into a team and coordinated. Ad hoc. They must come and be organized. Organized farming. So that the game is easier to play. We don't come competing. Every one of us growing the same things, and then we go to the marketplace and compete even to sell. No. So here we want to do or spearhead a process here, organized farming, to the extent that even in the marketplace, we need to talk, from the break, about cooperatives, consumer cooperatives, farmers cooperatives. The cooperatives, they're legislated. We need to start thinking, because that's how the white man is doing it. You see these big multinational stores, these chain stores, Pick and Pay. These are cooperatives at the level of consumer cooperatives. They've got a relationship with farmers and suppliers. So we need to create a synergy. Read our produce, guy. Don't wait for the government to do that for us. The farmers themselves must sit down together and determine the framework at the end, and have those that are really looking after that component of their enterprise. When you have this operation, there will be those that are tasked. The homeowners is not just tasked with the responsibility to manage you, but it is also tasked with the responsibility to make sure the produce market placing in the soft landing. So they do the marketing. They go there and consolidate deals with different entities for uptake here produce. So this is organized farming. There's no staccato, there's no chance. You're not doing farming by chance. Go out to the marketplace and hope somebody will buy your oranges. No. No.